So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 14, text 2. The chapter is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Idam jñānam upāśritya. Mama sādharmya āgatāḥ. Sarge nopajāyante. Pralaye vyathanti ca. Idam, this, jñānam, knowledge, upāśritya, taking shelter of, mama, my, sādharmyam, same nature, āgatāḥ, having attained, sarge, even in the creation, na, never, upajāyante, are born, pralaye, in the annihilation, na, nor, vyathanti, are disturbed, cha, also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Please repeat. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Purport. After acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death. One does not, however, lose his identity as an individual soul. It is understood from Vedic literature that the liberated souls who have reached the transcendental planets of the spiritual sky always look to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, being engaged in His transcendental loving service. So even after liberation, the devotees do not lose their individual identities. Generally, in the material world, whatever knowledge we get is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. As soon as one is situated in that transcendental knowledge, he is on the same platform as the Supreme Person. Those who have no knowledge of the spiritual sky hold that after being freed from the material activities of the material form, this spiritual identity becomes formless without any variegatedness. However, just as there is material variegatedness in this world, in the spiritual world there is also variegatedness. Those in ignorance of this think that spiritual existence is opposed to material variety. But actually in the spiritual sky, one attains a spiritual form. Their spiritual activities and the spiritual situation is called devotional life. That atmosphere is said to be uncontaminated, and there one is equal in quality with the Supreme Lord. To obtain such knowledge, one must develop all the spiritual qualities. One who thus develops the spiritual qualities is not affected either by the creation or by the destruction of the material world. Om Aganatimmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Melitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Gaura Govinda Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-yoga Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastatyadi Sataine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening to our Bhagavad-Gita class. It's finally raining. It's a bit cooler and we're more happy. So, according to Srila Prabhupada, we've now reached the most important chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. It's entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. The 14th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita is divided into 3 topics. The first topic is Krishna explains how we get conditioned by the modes. He explains the environment that the conditioned soul finds himself in, how he came to be there, and then how he gets affected by the 3 modes in that material environment. What type of results come from the contact with the gunas, with the 3 modes. That's being described in the first portion of this chapter. The second section speaks about the characteristics of the 3 modes and the activities in the 3 modes. How you can tell by someone's activities which mode they are affected by. What are the symptoms of those associated with those gunas or 3 modes of material nature. And the third topic of this particular chapter, then Krishna very nicely and very clearly and easily explains how to transcend the 3 modes. He gives the clue. So we can understand how we reach there, where we are, but also how to come free. How one is liberated from the 3 modes of material nature. In the previous purport, the very last sentence, Prabhupada says, if you study this 14th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, thus it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. So it's all positive, it's all optimism. We explained last time how the 3 modes are compared to shackles. There's the golden shackles, sattva gun, there's the silver shackles, raja gun, and then there's the iron shackles, tama gun. But they're all shackles, and Krishna gives the clue how to become free and how to get liberated and never have to take birth again in this material world. So it's a very wonderful topic. So the previous chapter, Prabhupada actually states, we were discussing last time by chance, and Srila Prabhupada just mentions the 13th chapter, text 22. He says, Karanam guna sangosya sat asat yoni janmasu. He says, the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the 3 modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So it was very clearly explained in the 13th chapter what happens to the conditioned soul in the material world. So in this particular purport, Krishna, the word knowledge comes up by becoming fixed in this knowledge. So here knowledge also means that Krishna is now giving the teaching. He's giving us the teaching whereby we acquire the correct knowledge of how to become free from the three modes. And the key word here in this particular verse is sādharmyam. How by obtaining the same nature, the same transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord, thereby we become free. So we will be discussing this today a little bit about this knowledge. So first of all, we all know, because we're all affected by the three modes of material nature, isn't it? In so many ways. We've all experienced it, especially for us devotees who are trying to practice Krishna consciousness. We're in the safe boat of Krishna consciousness, but still we're getting tossed in the ocean. And the conditioning of this particular body that we have accepted goes very, very deep. It goes very, very deep. According to the birth that we have attained, according to our karma, we have a particular outlook. We have a particular way of looking at things. And we might think we're perceiving the truth, but really we're just observing our own paradigm. And that's why this knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita and the teaching of Bhagavad-Gita is so important, because you might think you know it, you know now the truth, but really the conditioning is very strong. The example is given of Parvati, very most exalted lady in the universe, right? She's sitting on the lap of her husband, Lord Shiva. He's talking to an assembly of sadhus. King Chitraketu happens to fly past in an aeroplane. They're godbrothers, so he's sitting in an aeroplane and he's seeing how he's sitting with his wife on his lap and speaking, katha to these sadhus, and he laughs. What is this? He's just joking, he doesn't mean any malice, he doesn't mean any harm. And Shivaji, he could immediately understand, and he also laughed. Yes, that's right, like that. But Parvati, due to the nature of being in a female body, her ego didn't digest that at all. Huff, you upstart, why are you laughing at my husband? How dare you, isn't it? And she cursed him. She went as far as to curse him, like that. Chitraketu, being a humble Vaishnava that he is, he just folded his hands and accepted it. He never objected. He didn't argue with her. He didn't retaliate. He just accepted it as Krishna's arrangement, and like that went on his way. Then Shiva, Parvati's husband, he had to turn to his wife and said, actually, Devi, you just made a grave mistake. And he had to enlighten her that due to her ego, due to her female conditioning, she had perceived the situation in a particular way. So if even elevated demigods, are still affected by their particular conditioning, then what to speak of us? So we have to be aware of these modes, how they are working, how they are affecting us, and then take Krishna's advice in the Bhagavad-Gita how to become free from them, how to become at least aloof. The first sentence in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, after acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death. So this is a very important sentence, that by receiving this knowledge, thereby we can take to the same transcendental nature of the Lord, and thereby become free from repeated birth and death. And this is bringing me a little bit back to the question you had last time. We were speaking about the hearing process, and you brought up this point, what about reading? And all this time I've been meditating on that because I wasn't so happy with my answer. It was a little bit incomplete, and I hope it wasn't misunderstood. Yes, reading Shastra is essential. It is also a form of reading because we are saying there's always this check and balance system, sadhu, Shastra, Guru. We're reading Shastra right now, isn't it? We have to take shelter of Shastra. Actually, Devi Shakti Mataji a few days back in her amazing Bhagavatam class, she was saying how every day, I'm guessing at least for 50 years, she reads minimum 2 hours Srila Prabhupada's books daily. So reading, especially Prabhupada's books, daily is a sadhana, it's a very essential sadhana, because the Shastra gives mercy, the Shastra gives insight and purifies the intelligence. However, Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, he speaks about the 64 limbs of devotional service, isn't it? And he lists, quoted from his brother Sanatana Goswami, he lists them from Hari Bhakti Vilas. So, just bear with me. However, out of those 64, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he highlights 5 as the most important, isn't it? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathura Vas, Shrimurtira Shradaya Sivana. One should associate with devotees, chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Bhagavatam, which also means studying Bhagavatam, recite at Mathura, and worship the deity with faith and veneration. So daily we can check, am I doing these 5? And which one out of those 5 is the most important? Yes, Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is the most important, thank you, because if you're in the association of devotees, here meaning pure devotees, you know, those that are advanced, who are serious sadhakas, then automatically Bhagavatam is going on, the holy name is going on, worshipping the deity is going on, and because they are carrying Krishna in their heart, because of their pure devotion, and wherever is Krishna, there's Vrindavan, so you're also in the holy Dham, you see. So Sadhu Sangha is the most important. And when Rupa Goswami lists those 64 items, the first 3 are just in relationship to Sadhu Sangha. It says, Tacha Guru Parashraya, that the first thing is to take shelter of such a sadhu, of such a pure devotee. We need to take shelter. We discussed that last time, how this material world is a false shelter. It's an environment where these 3 modes are active. So we want to try and become free from them. So many clues are given. We need to associate with those who are free from them, who are not shackled by these 3 modes. You see, a conditioned soul cannot save another conditioned soul, isn't it? Only somebody who is free from the jailhouse can liberate the inmates, you see. Then the second item is Sri Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. When you come in contact with such a pure devotee who carries Krishna in the heart, you take shelter, and by taking initiation and instruction, because like we just pointed out, we are affected by the 3 modes. So how we perceive the truth will be also conditioned by that. So we need to hear from somebody, again, you know, who is free, who is aloof, who is above them, so that we can, through this hearing and through this reading, that we can get the correct understanding. And the third item is Vishrambo Guru Seva. We have to serve with faith the devotees of the Lord, with confidence. And how do we gain this confidence? Oh, here I'm in safe association, I'm in shelter, I can place my trust and faith here, because here is somebody who's not affected by the three modes and will help me also to become free. So I just wanted to bring that up, that I don't know how many hours you read Srila Prabhupada's books, but actually when I was a new devotee here in Vrindavan in 1979, right from the beginning, we were trained to read minimum was the minimum 1 hour every day, ideally 2 hours every day. So we have to check, are we doing that? And I wanted to tell you a story, an experience that I had at some time when I was still a brahmacharini, so it's a long time ago, maybe 40 years ago. I was a devotee in Sydney, in Australia. And there was just one temple at that time, and it was in King's Cross. It was a very degraded environment, but anyhow, that's where the temple was. And back in those days, all the devotees lived in one building. The temple was our home, our shelter, our universe, our everything. It was our sanctuary. So all the devotees lived in the temple. Now, the building was such that the front entrance, if you came through the front entrance, you would then come to the temple room with Gornitai deities. If you came, there was also a back entrance. If you came from the back side into the building, you came into what was named at that time Mukunda's drop-in center. Because it was a very degraded environment, there was also a lot of homeless people, roaming in the streets, and hungry people and like that. So in the evenings, and I think in the morning too, the devotees would give out free prasadam to these homeless people, down and outs. There was prostitutes, alcoholics, homeless people, all sorts of characters like that. They would come in through the back door and get khichdi prasadam or something like that, you see. So one time, coming home from collection, because I was not dressed in devotional clothes, I decided to come in through the back door. I didn't want to come the front entrance. And also sometimes after a day out, we would like to come in the back entrance to see if there was maybe somebody we can sit down and preach to and like that, you see. So this one evening I came in, and these down and outs, they look pretty disheveled, They're not exactly the most pleasant looking characters. But I saw there was this one really nice couple sitting there, very demure, nicely, very, shyly eating their khichdi, simple khichdi prasadam, and they stuck out. So of course I immediately sat there and introduced myself, and they told me how they had just come from New Zealand. We're in Australia. New Zealand is an island off the coast, quite some distance. And you have to remember, in those days we didn't have internet. There was no mobile phones, any of those things, right? So somehow or other, they had come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, part 1. Somehow or other this book came to them, and they were reading it together in their home, and it really touched their heart. They were taking it very seriously and very carefully studying it. And after reading that first volume, they realized, what we need is to find these devotees. And we need to find the devotees and chant Hare Krishna. They understood that just by reading that first volume in their home somewhere in New Zealand. Now in the front of the book, the only address they could find was the BBT in Sydney. And then they decided, now this is the kind of determination that is needed. They decided to take a holiday from their job and fly to Australia, go to Sydney. Somehow or other they found the address, and by chance, instead of coming through the front entrance, they came the back way. So when they were sitting there, they were thinking they're with devotees, taking prasadam. And I immediately said, no, come with me. And I took them to the temple room and showed them the altar and introduced them to the devotees that were living in the temple. But this really stuck in my mind, this story, because this is the conclusion, that if you're studying the Shastra and you're studying Bhagavad-Gita, you're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to come to this conclusion of taking shelter of the devotees and chanting the holy name under their guidance, study Bhagavad-Gita and come to the correct understanding. Yasya deve parabhaktiya yata deve tata guru tasyaite katita yata prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. See, Krishna is just telling us in today's verse how he's going to teach us the correct knowledge. He's telling us. But so many clues are also there that we need to have faith not only in the Lord but also the pure devotee, the spiritual master. We have to accept the spiritual master because the truth is a process of revelation. Because they are carrying a famous verse from the Mahabharata. Please excuse me, but I get tongue-tied quoting Shastra in public, so I'm taking help of the book. Oops, and I've got the wrong page. 8387, excuse me. We all know these verses. We've heard them many times, and they're very dear to us. Tako patishta shrutayo vibina, na shavrishya yasya matam na binam, damasya tatvam nihitam guhayam, maha jano yena gata sapanta. So the path of truth is shown by the Mahajans. We don't need to invent anything new. We just need to follow them. Because here the translation says, dry arguments are inconclusive. We can't speculate. We have to follow the correct procedure. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. This is in the material sphere. You know, if you go to university and you study and you want to get the title of professor, you have to write a thesis and you have to write something different than anybody else, something completely new. That's in the material sphere. But in the spiritual sphere, we exactly speak verbatim what the great Mahajanas have given us. Because the solid truth of religious principles, is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, the Shastras will tell us, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajanas advocate. So this is the process of acquiring knowledge that Krishna is teaching us. I was thinking, I was remembering my Gurudev, he said this one time. You all heard of William Blake. He's a famous English poet, right? And he says one verse, he says, we read the Bible day and night, but you read black and I read white. See, that's the problem. We're both reading Shastra, but what are we reading according to our conditioning? What are you seeing? What am I seeing? And then my Gurudev, he would add, yeah, you read black and I read white, and then we fight. And might makes right. Might makes right, you see, my way or the highway, you see. So this is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want that. We want to get the correct understanding. Because as we learned earlier on in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, Janma kama cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvadaha. Tvaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sojana. So here he's saying exactly the same thing as what we're reading tonight. He's saying evam yo veti tatvataha, that you have to understand me in truth. And then if you've understood the transcendental nature in truth of Krishna, my birth, my activities, my form, my transcendental form, then you will gain his same transcendental nature and go back to him. This again is also pointed out in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. The same word tattva comes up. 9th chapter, text 24. Here Krishna says, Aham hi sava jñānam bhokta cha prabhu eva cha natu mam abhijananti tat venatas javanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So again, the same message is given here, that we must understand Krishna in tattva, like that. And then of course, further along, in the 18th chapter, text 55, again we're hearing it. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tat anantaram. One can understand me as I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So Krishna is explaining again and again, and we need to take note of this also here in the 14th chapter. Not only does Krishna want us to get transcendental knowledge in the right procedure and become liberated from the three modes of material nature, but I'm just going to jump right ahead to the very end of the 14th chapter, because if we can understand our goal, see, the whole point is that I need to know who I am. What is this place where I am in right now? How did I get there? How is it functioning? And now how to get out, and why, and where am I getting out to? Exactly what am I doing? Because even the impersonalists, they also know this knowledge, that they need to become free from the three modes of material nature, the cycle of karma, the repeated birth and death. But we want to we don't want to just become liberated and attain Brahman realization. That is a step, but it's not the goal. And how to reach the final goal? Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti-yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Krishna immediately points us again into that direction. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once, you don't have to do anything. You just have to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. And immediately you're on the transcendental platform. You're on the platform of bhakti. You're not under the control of the three modes of nature anymore. You're now under the shelter and the care and the control of the Lord directly. Srila Prabhupada states that in a purport in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. As soon as we come to Krishna consciousness, protection is immediate. It's not that we have to first aspire to become pure devotees or reach the highest level of Krishna consciousness. No, just by coming and engaging in devotional service to Krishna and doing our best in all circumstances, automatically we're on the transcendental platform. As I said in the preliminary stages, we're in the safety of the boat of Krishna consciousness, and we still might get knocked around and rocked around a little bit because it's a process. But The protection of the Lord is immediate because you're now engaged in bhakti, and bhakti is not an item of the material world. It is transcendental. So engaging in devotional service under the guidance of pure devotees, you're immediately in the shelter of the Supreme Lord, and you do not have to worry about the effects of the three modes of material nature, like that. So we spoke a lot about the qualification of the Guru, how he has to be able to see the truth, because only the truth will liberate us, like that. So understanding Krishna in tattva means to understand that Krishna is only filled with bhakti rasa, this pure love, Satchid Ananda. He's eternal, he's full of knowledge, and he's full of bliss. And when Krishna comes to this material world, he wants to share, he wants to give this nectarian mellow. That's the purpose of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya is Krishna appeared in this world some 5,000, it's now 5,250 years ago. However, when he reached back into his abode, and this is explained in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he was thinking, now that I've left, it's the end of Dwapara Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga. I came and I spoke these teachings of Bhagavad-Gita, but how will the unfortunate souls in Kali Yuga, how will they be able to understand it? How will they know how to practice Krishna consciousness? So he decided, I have to come again myself, but not in the role of the Supreme Lord, in the role of his devotee, to teach by example. So he's the acharya, he's the teacher that teaches by example. So by his own example, his life, his behavior, his teachings, he's showing of how the unfortunate jivas in this Kali Yuga can easily be liberated and come to full Krishna consciousness. So we're always taking shelter of him, we're always reminded of his teachings, because Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana, Bhakti, Bhagavan and Bhakta, they're not of this material world. They have to come. They're coming from the spiritual world, because there's the transcendental platform. So this bhakti is given to us through Krishna Katha, through the Shastra, through the association of devotees, through the holy Dham, through the worship of the deities, and like that. I wanted to tell you a little story that my Gurudev tells in this regard, just to show how Krishna is coming to this material world to give this bhakti rasa, or this mellow of love, nectarian love. One time, Nanda Maharaj, he was in his home and he just saw one cowherd boy running past outside, and he called out, "Hey, come here. Have you seen Krishna? Is he down by the Yamuna?" And this cowherd boy said, No, Baba, I just came from the Yamuna. I didn't see Krishna there. He's not there. Krishna is not by the Yamuna. Nanda Baba is wondering, I haven't seen Krishna in a while. I wonder where he is. Or maybe he's gone to Vamsivat. He's gone down to Vamsivat. But it just so happened, another cowherd boy came running from a different direction. No, Baba, I just came from Vamsivat. I didn't see Krishna there. He's not there. Oh, really? He's not in Vamsivat? Oh, I wonder where is Krishna? He's been gone a long time. Well, maybe he's gone to Vrishabhanu's house. Maybe he's gone over there. But again, another cowherd boy happened to come by and said, No, Baba, I didn't see Krishna in Vrishabhanu's house. He's not there. Now Nanda Maharaj, this anxiety is coming in his heart. And Mother Yashoda also. Any parent will know this feeling of anxiety. Oh no, where's my Lala? He's not here, he's not there, nobody has seen him. Where is Krishna? And such intense fear and anxiety for their child is rising up in their heart. And just at that moment, Krishna came jumping from behind the door and said, "Here I am." Any parent will know, children will play these tricks. So it's an apparent, very ordinary human little trick, but there's such an exchange of rasa. You see, there's such an exchange of love. And that's how Krishna is giving pleasure to his devotees. So he wants us to feel that bliss at all times. He wants us to engage in our loving relationship with him like that. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada also says, that knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. So this knowledge that we are hearing, from Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, these pastimes that the pure devotees are sharing with us, this is transcendental knowledge. This is not knowledge affected by the three modes of material nature. So we're so blessed. We are so blessed. I remember I grew up in the Christian faith in Germany. And actually there came a time when I took it really to heart and I very, very carefully studied the Bible. But the more I studied, the more I had questions. And the more I had questions, and I tried to ask the priest and other different senior people in our village, no, you don't question. It was like when you have questions, it's almost like an offense. You don't doubt it, you just have faith. But that just wasn't satisfying to me. And then later when I learned that actually the Bible is just an account from people that lived 60, 100 years later. It's not even an original account necessarily for people who were right there, associating with Jesus, you see. Then I really became doubtful. Oh, what is this? But here in Krishna consciousness, we're so fortunate that not only are we hearing the teachings of the Lord, but we are getting to study every day the words coming directly from His own mouth, which is very, very special. Prabhupada also mentions about the individuality of the soul. So becoming free from the three modes doesn't mean, and coming to the Brahma Bhuta level, Brahma Bhuta Prajanatma, na sochati na kankshati, right? Krishna saying in the 18th chapter. But okay. So in a minute. We are not merging into Brahman. We're not becoming one. That's impersonal. That's Mayavad philosophy. Prabhupada immediately has to point that out. Becoming free from this material world, because in the material world we have a material body, material mind, which gives us so much suffering. So he explains, oftentimes people equate liberation just becoming free from suffering, which means becoming free from a body, a form, because it's this body that's caused me so much distress. But in the spiritual world, as we were reading in the purport, there are also forms, there are also activities, there's also variegatedness. Chintamani kalpariksha. Sorry, I get tongue-tied. Every word is a song, every step is a dance. The Vaikuntha, it's the place free from anxiety. The lotus feet of the Lord is such a place where there's no fear, there's no lamentation, there's not even death. So all we need to do is take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, and we're immediately protected as individual servants at His lotus feet. We all have our own unique individual eternal, perfect, loving relationship with Krishna. And He wants to re-establish that relationship with us. That is His purpose. In a very simple way, we could say, sometimes there's this saying, you can live to eat, or you can eat to live. In a very simple way, this is the difference between spiritual life and material life. You can live your material life and make so many fanciful arrangements, try to mitigate your sufferings in so many ways. You can live to eat. Or you can just simply accept what is your quota, eat that what you need to live, to come to true life, namely spiritual life, Krishna consciousness. So, in conclusion, I just want to round it up by saying how in this chapter Krishna explains how He creates the material world, how He impregnates the material world with the jivas. He is the seed-giving Father. How the modes of material nature affect the conditioned souls according to their karmic activities, because that was their desire. Krishna grants everybody minute independence. So this is the misuse of the minute independence. And the Lord is such a friend. He's such a friend that even so we wanted to be independent of Him, He always stays with us in our hearts. He never deserts us. And He is willing to help us come free of that situation and go home back to Godhead. Krishna says in the 19th verse of this chapter, when one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these three modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental of all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So Krishna is giving the clue, and then as I was just reading, and I'll just say it again, however, He immediately lifts us to the topmost level by saying, please engage in my full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances. And we discussed the limbs of devotional service, how there are 64, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu isolated 5 as the most essential, and out of those 5, Sadhu Sangha is the most important. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for giving me this service opportunity. Please excuse my inadequacies and shortcomings. If you have any questions or comments, there's a little time. Yes, Mataji?
To know about you, like you have come from a Christian family. So, how from your heart it made you to believe that Krishna is the Supreme Godhead? What that made you?
Yes.
Because it's really difficult, and it's really a miracle you coming from Germany, not born in India, and you are accepting with much more faith and integrity what we Indians are also not doing. So what is that faith in you? Do you feel that Krishna is the Supreme?
Well, like I said, Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, there's 4 types of people that come to Him. The distressed, those that want money, those who are just inquisitive, and those that are looking actually for the truth. So somehow or other, due to my prarabdha karma, I was born in that particular situation. From a young age, I experienced quite some serious suffering. So that made me very inquisitive from a very young age. What is death? Who am I? Why am I here? Who created this world? Why does it have to be in this way? Who says that I have to go to school for so many years and then I have to work hard, then I have to die, and then where I go? You see, so I had a lot of questions. And like I said, in that Christian faith, unfortunately, I didn't find satisfying answers that made my heart peaceful. So again, it was a time we didn't have internet. I tried to research different books in the library. I was somehow or other, Super Soul is always with us. You see, Krishna's in our heart. So Krishna inspired me to look for Eastern religion. And it's a long journey. It doesn't happen from one day to the next. First I had to learn to be a vegetarian. Then I had to learn, to look in the right places for the correct knowledge. I was studying so many books, going to so many different libraries. And again, by Krishna's mercy, it's all Krishna's mercy, the inspiration came in my heart. One day again, I would spend days, nights reading, literally, all kinds of philosophical books, looking for the answer, you see. And then one time the realization, Super Soul gave me the realization, you can study all the books in the world, but you will maybe still not come to the truth. What you need is a teacher. See, Krishna gave that realization. Then I understood, even in school we kind of understood, India is the land of religion. If you want to know about ancient religion, you need to come to India. This was our understanding, you see. You see, here in India, you are fed everything with your mother's breast milk. You're very familiar. Somebody will say, please take this Bhagavad-Gita. Oh, yes, no, I know. My grandmother has told me. This urgent desire is, because it's also still quite a pious country, so this urgent desire is not so in depth, possibly. Because unfortunately, and this was Prabhupada's insight, he could see that here in India, they're becoming apathetic about spiritual life and they're imitating the West. You see? Because you've been indoctrinated to think that you're a poor country, you're a starving country, you're a third world country. So that gives the idea in your mind, oh, if I can just become like that, then I enjoy even more. Because here in India, you know a lot about Kamakanda, to do these pious activities, and then I get a more heavenly life. You understand the concept of reincarnation. I didn't know about reincarnation. I thought I have this one life, you see. So I was desperate. Here you're thinking, oh well, another life. You see, but why another life? Why take your chances? Because you're forgetting that this human form is a rare birth. And to be born in India is very special. Actually, Shastra says, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, if you're born in India, it's your duty to go all over the world and give this knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita. That is your duty. Not to imitate what they're doing in the West with all their degraded activities and bringing your consciousness down. You see? That's the sad part. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, he went to America, not to take anything from there. He was not in any illusion that they've got anything to offer to him. He went there to give this Krishna consciousness, and then if he could make devotees, American devotees, he brought them back to India and wake up the Indian people. See, the Americans are taking this serious. Why are you forgetting? Like that. So India is a very, very special country. It's the only it's the only country that is still practicing its ancient culture. All other ancient cultures have been lost. They're antiquated. But in India, you still find the remnants, the activities and culture of the ancient Vedic culture. And so we in Krishna Consciousness, in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, we try so hard to help Srila Prabhupada's mission to please stop this degradation that the Indian people, in a naive way, maybe even, in an ignorant, innocent way, in a childish way, maybe even, I don't know, are going towards to. You see? We always trying to encourage, especially the young students, the young people, please be proud of your culture. Understand your roots. Such deep, deep roots you have. Why? Why you have to walk all the time with your iPhone, with shorts and tight clothes? Why you have to do like that? That is not freedom. That is not liberation. That is not liberation. That's exactly the opposite to what we were just discussing. You see? They are, instead of understanding sattva gun and the level of transcendence, they are willing to degrade themselves to rajagun and tamagun. You see? That's the sad part. So if we can educate, especially the young people here in India, I think what I understand from my experience of preaching in India, a lot of the younger generation, they have become disillusioned because their experience, what I experienced when I was a young person, it was all just by hearsay. Oh, you just do like this because grandmother said like that, your father is expecting to do like this, but there was not really any maybe logic or intelligence behind it. So we can give this knowledge that Krishna is giving us, this teaching of the workings of the three modes of material nature, what this material world is, why we are here. And you're an Indian now, and you're in the human form, but even in our Shastras there are stories. Bharat Maharaj was forced to take the birth of a deer. King Nahusha was forced to take a birth of a snake. So just because you've come to this human form of life, it's not guaranteed that you can't degrade again to the animal species. That's a fact, as sad as this is, and we don't really like to talk about it, but it's a fact. There's beautiful paintings here in the front of the Bhagavad-Gita. If your consciousness, you might be now in this human form, 2 arms, 2 legs, and but if your consciousness, because we're discussing Krishna consciousness, how to elevate our consciousness to the highest level. So if you're degrading your consciousness and you voluntarily agree to become more entangled by sinful activities, not even just material but sinful activities, eating meat, taking alcohol, using drugs, loose sexual intercourse, like that, all these activities are rampant here just the same now, you see. So if you are making yourself available to these degrading activities, then you're entangling yourself more and more in the modes, and where will you be in your next life? So this wonderful opportunity of being born in India, you've wasted. You see, that's the sad part. I had a really interesting, can I share one thing? I had an interesting experience. We used to do padayatra in Orissa. This is like maybe 30 years ago. At that time, Orissa was considered, one of the poorer states in India. And so we used to go by walking, from village to village to village, and with bullock cart and like that, to do preaching. And it was an amazing experience. It was super austere. But just to meet the villagers, it was unbelievable. These simple folks, living so poor, some of them, never seen foreigners maybe even. It would just have such a powerful effect on them, So we would do that every year. And one time we stopped in a larger town, more like a city, and it was already night time. All my children were with us, and it was pretty tough sometimes because of the food, very spicy food and like that. They get diarrhea and this and that. Anyway, I had to go to a medicine shop, and just trying to get some medicine for my children. And this young student, in a very challenging, proud, something proud way, approached me, like attacked me, actually, and said, "Excuse me, madam." And I thought, okay, here we go. "Excuse me, madam, just know, in your next life, you will be born as in a Brahmin family in my India, in Orissa. Then actually you will be able to be Lord Jagannath's devotee." We hear this sort of thing all the time, and I was tired. It was the end of the day. So I just turned to him very calmly and I said, "Yes, that's all right. And please, excuse me, dear student, just know, in your next life, maybe you will be born in my America, and then you can really become an IT engineer." Like, what's the logic, I was just over it. I had enough. And he just looked at me with such big eyes, and then he just ran away. Because he realized in an instant, oh my God, what have I just done? Because they know they have a very strong culture. Your culture is so beautiful. That's why I came to India, Your culture is beautiful. I love it. It gives us structure. It gives us a place of belonging. It gives us a place of purpose. It gives us hope in this material life. Especially in this day and age, there's so much conflict, so much confusion, so much suffering. People are in so much depression, especially the young ones, you see. So your Indian culture, why I came here is because it's just beautiful and it's solid. Everybody has a place, and for everybody there is a place. And if you're like this, you do like this. And everybody, no matter what, can achieve the highest and get the love of God. It's so embracing, so all-encompassing. So we mustn't forget that. We have to preserve that.
I also just wanted to share one thing, Mataji. I have been staying 18 years in Dubai with the best of the everything in Dubai, as it is, it's a very rich country, and everything, we had the best of everything.
Yes.
Like my office was in Twin Towers.
Right.
Mataji, there was a time when I was eating in silver plate also, but I couldn't eat because I was crying from inside. I was literally crying from inside, what am I doing? And then I left everything from Dubai, and then I came here and slipping down from Delhi to Greater Noida and then here to Vrindavan.
Jai, Haribol.
So, Mataji, because we are too rooted to our country.
Dubai, is the ultimate of Maya's illusion. The ultimate, the top. I just learned, we're having floods. Like, I come from Germany, there's some really serious, heavy flooding going on over there. In France, in Belgium, in Italy. In India, here in Delhi, you're having heavy floods. In Dubai, they had to send drones. They had to send drones to create rain. It's actually such a sinful place. You see? And you might have been sitting there in this fancy twin tower office eating of a silver plate, but you cannot buy fresh cow's milk. You see, your India is famous for the holy cow. One of the reasons I came to India is because here the cow is supposed to be holy. Is supposed to be protected, is our mother. When I heard that in school, I was 15, 16-year-old girl, and I learned about India because even as a child, I didn't know about vegetarianism. I had no idea it didn't exist. As a small child, my mother would force me because it's expensive, to buy meat, and she's thinking I need it for my health. And she would force me to eat it. I'd hate it. I didn't like it. I didn't know. You see, only later I learned. Then when I learned in school, you go to India, everybody's vegetarian, and the cow is holy and protected. She's your mother. Oh, it felt so good. It felt so beautiful. You see, you have such a responsibility as Indians. You have a tremendous responsibility to the rest of the world. Don't become like America, for crying out loud. Be the proud inheritor of your amazing culture. That is the only thing that's going to save this world. Because no matter what culture or what age, what generation you live, the three modes are active. So they're just variegations of the different types of sufferings. And material life means to try and, we say, push the bubble in the carpet. You're laying a carpet and you want it to be nice and smooth, but somehow or other bubble comes up. So you go and push the bubble, but then it pops up somewhere else. So living in this material world, trying to make all these adjustments, getting a fancy job in Dubai, earning a lot of money, is just pushing the bubble. It'll pop up somewhere else. It will not make your heart happy. You see? So this is the real knowledge. How to come free from the interactions of the three modes of material nature. And the leaders that are in charge in the world right now are experts, absolutely expert at fooling everybody, telling through education, through media, through politics, whatever, telling everybody, oh, just 1 minute, we'll make this adjustment, this adjustment, this adjustment. Oh, you just didn't try that. Oh, now we'll go to the Mars. We did go to the moon, now we'll go to the Mars. Oh, you tried this vaccination. Oh no, we'll have another one. Oh, you don't need one, you need two. These politicians just frantically, because of their own prestige only, just to hold their position, because they themselves are so affected by the three modes of material nature. They're just making all these false promises. Yes, we make this adjustment, that adjustment, this adjustment, and then, but nobody, not one of them so far has had the courage to just come and say, let's pray to God. Who is far more powerful, far more greater than any natural disaster or climate change or any of those things. There's a supreme power far beyond, greater or more powerful, who can just do anything like that within a blink, with his glance. So why are we so proud? Why are we so stupid? If we really care for each other and we really want to have a good life, why don't we just humbly say, let's just cool it and let's just go to the Supreme Lord and ask for help. Please, Lord, help us. That was the bizarre thing. Sorry, I'm going off a bit. But because I come from Germany and I was watching the news a little bit about this heavy flooding in this beautiful town. Germany is picture perfect beautiful. If you want a nice material life, go to Switzerland or go to Germany. They've got it worked down to a T. There was this one lady on the news, she said, in front of her completely, absolutely devastated, destroyed home. She said, and only just last week we finished renovating the whole house from top to bottom. Floor heating, new furniture, new kitchen, new bathroom, and like that, within minutes, it was destroyed. And that is the power of the Lord. He says that in Bhagavad-Gita. I am giving the rain and the droughts and all these things. He is in control of that, you see. And then one other lady's there crying, oh, why did God do this to us? Destroyed our beautiful village. Yes, why did he? Why did he? Exactly. You needed a slap. You see, that's the problem. They're also going to the church. Why? Dear God, give me this, give me this, give me this, forgive my sin, oh I made a mistake, I won't do it again. But then they do it again, and they don't really take it serious. And here in India also, isn't it? Dear God, please give me this, give me this, give me this. Give me money, give me marriage, give me this position. Like that, you see? Anyway, Hare Krishna, sorry.
Does it being in the passion is good or bad? Like how much passionate we have? We can't be always in the goodness, right? Like we
Why
should
not?
have a passion to reach the Krishna consciousness. Like
Yeah, that's a different thing. You will learn in the next chapter if you're affected by the mode of in this chapter. If you're affected by the mode of passion, the passion is known by somebody who wants to make a lot of money, who wants to enjoy. So we have that nature. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, that's another reason why accepting a spiritual master is so important, because he knows your nature and he will engage you accordingly. So if you were a non-devotee, you might be thinking, I want to enjoy, I want to have a big position, I want to make a lot of money, I want to have a beautiful wife. That's the symptom of the mode of passion. But the Guru will engage you and say, you become the biggest book distributor, you build the biggest temple, you see? And then under his guidance and protection, he uses your passion in Krishna's service, and thereby your heart will become purified and it will dissolve. All your material desires will be dissolved for good forever, like that. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everybody. Hari Bol.